You betrayed us. She shakes her head. She didn't. But no one believes her. Then. Her bond snaps. Her wolf screams. And she is banished. She had always known her place. Not at the center of the pack. Not among the warriors. Not beside the alpha. But somewhere quieter. Somewhere steady. Somewhere, needed. Rowan moved through the pack like a shadow no one noticed until something went wrong. And when it did. When a fever spiked in the middle of the night. When a child couldn't shift back. When a hunter returned bleeding from the border. They came to her. Always her. The infirmary sat at the edge of the settlement, where the forest pressed close and the air smelled of damp earth and crushed leaves. It was small. Simple. A place most wolves avoided unless they had no other choice. Rowan preferred it that way. Less noise. Less eyes. Less expectation. She worked in silence most days. Grinding herbs. Boiling tonics. Wrapping wounds with hands that never shook. Even when the patient did. "They'll be fine," she would say softly, even when she wasn't entirely sure. And somehow. They usually were. It wasn't power. Not the kind that made others bow. But it was something. And in a pack like theirs. That was enough. Or at least, it had been. Because packs were built on trust. On loyalty. On bonds that didn't break without reason. That was the rule. The law. The thing every wolf understood without needing to say it out loud. You protected your own. No matter what. And Rowan had. Over and over again. There was the winter 3 years ago. The one no one liked to talk about. Food had run thin. Tempers thinner. A sickness had spread through the younger wolves, fast, vicious, relentless. Rowan hadn't slept for 3 days. Not really. Just moments. Here and there. Head against the wall. Eyes closing for seconds at a time. Then back to work. "Drink this," she'd told a trembling child, holding the cup steady while small hands shook too hard to manage it alone. "It's bitter," the boy had whispered. "I know." A pause. Then softer. "But it'll help." He drank it. Because she asked him to. He lived. Most of them did. Because she didn't stop. No one praised her for it. Not openly. But they started looking at her differently after that. With something, quieter. Something like respect. Even the warriors. Even the alpha. He had come to the infirmary once, after a border skirmish left his shoulder torn open. Rowan remembered the way the room had shifted when he entered. The weight of him. The authority. The silence that followed. "Sit," she had said. Not looking at him. Not daring to. A beat of stillness. Then. He did. She cleaned the wound without speaking. Without hesitation. Without fear. At least, not visibly. "You don't tremble," he'd said after a moment, his voice low, almost curious. Rowan kept her eyes on her work. "It wouldn't help if I did." A pause. Longer this time. Then, quieter. "No. I suppose it wouldn't." That had been the end of it. No praise. No thanks. Just the faintest shift in how he looked at her after. And that had been enough. Because Rowan didn't need recognition. She just needed to belong. And she did. Or she thought she did. Until things started changing. Small at first. Subtle. Easy to ignore. It was the looks. The ones that lingered a second too long. Then disappeared when she noticed. The conversations that stopped when she entered a room. The way laughter dimmed, just slightly. At first, she told herself she was imagining it. Stress. Fatigue. The remnants of a long winter. But then came Elira. Elira had always been noticeable. Beautiful in the way that drew eyes without trying. Sharp in the way that made people listen. And smiling. Always smiling. "Rowan," she'd said one afternoon, stepping into the infirmary without knocking. "You work too hard." Rowan didn't look up from the herbs she was sorting. "Someone has to." A soft laugh. Light. Almost warm. "I suppose that's true." Elira moved closer. Too close. Her fingers brushing lightly against the edge of the worktable. "You've always been so devoted." Something about the way she said it made Rowan pause. Just for a second. Not wrong. But not right either. Rowan finally looked up. Elira was watching her. Smiling. But her eyes. Her eyes didn't match. There was something there. Something thin. Something sharp. Gone the moment Rowan noticed it. "You needed something?" Rowan asked carefully. A beat. Then Elira tilted her head. Still smiling. "No." A pause. Then softer. "Just checking on you." And then she left. The door closed behind her with a quiet click. Rowan stood there for a moment longer than necessary. Her fingers still resting on the herbs. Her chest, tight. That wasn't normal. But she let it go. Because what else was she supposed to do? Days passed. Then more. And the feeling didn't go away. It grew. A hunter came in with a deep gash along his ribs. Rowan stitched it carefully, methodically. Same as always. "You're quiet today," he said after a while. "I'm always quiet." He hesitated. Just for a second. "Yeah. But, not like this." Rowan's hand stilled. "Like what?" He shook his head. Too quickly. "Nothing." But it wasn't nothing. She could feel it. In the way he avoided her gaze. In the way he left faster than usual once she was done. In the way the air seemed to shift after he walked out. Something was wrong. And no one was saying it. Not her best friend. Not the ones she had healed. Not even the wolves who used to greet her when she passed. They just looked. Then looked away. Until the day everything broke. The accusation came without warning. No build-up. No explanation. Just. Sudden. Violent. Final. She did it. The words echoed across the clearing like a crack of thunder. Rowan froze. Slowly. Very slowly. She turned. Elira stood near the center of the gathering. Eyes bright. Voice steady. She poisoned the stores. Silence followed. Heavy. Unmoving. Rowan blinked. Once. Twice. That's not enough. The Alpha's voice cut through hers like a blade. Cold. Decisive. Unyielding. Rowan's breath caught. He was already looking at her. Not with anger. Not even with disappointment. With certainty. And that was worse. "I didn't," Rowan said, her voice quieter now. Not because she was unsure. But because something inside her had just shifted. The Alpha didn't respond. Didn't ask questions. Didn't hesitate. Evidence has been presented. A pause. And confirmed. By who? The question rose in her throat. But never made it out. Because she already knew. Her eyes moved. Searching. Faces she recognized. Wolves she had helped. Saved. Stood beside. And one by one. They looked away. Her best friend stood near the edge of the crowd. Hands clenched at her sides. Eyes fixed firmly on the ground. Not speaking. Not defending. Just, silent. Rowan's chest tightened. Say something, she whispered. Not loud enough for anyone else to hear. But loud enough for her. The silence that followed was louder than anything else. That was the moment it cracked. Not the accusation. Not the Alpha's judgment. But that. That silence. Rowan swallowed hard. Her pulse loud in her ears. Her thoughts racing. Trying to make sense of something that didn't make sense. This wasn't how it worked. Packs didn't do this. Not without truth. Not without proof. Not without something. Unless. Her breath hitched. Unless the truth didn't matter. Unless. This wasn't about what she did. Her gaze flicked back to Alira. Still smiling. And suddenly. Everything felt wrong. Not just the accusation. Not just the silence. All of it. The looks. The whispers. The distance. It hadn't started today. It had been building. Carefully. Quietly. On purpose. Rowan's stomach dropped. This wasn't a mistake. It was a setup. And setups didn't happen without intent. Her heart began to pound. Faster now. Harder. Because if it wasn't random, then it meant something worse. Something deliberate. Something planned. Her voice came out barely above a breath. Why? No one answered. Of course they didn't. Because the answer was already there. In the silence. In the stares. In the way everything had shifted before she even realized it. Rowan's fingers curled into her palms. Her chest tight. Her thoughts locking into place with a clarity that felt almost cold. This wasn't about a lie. It was about removal. About erasing her. About making sure she didn't belong here anymore. Her throat tightened. And the realization settled in. Heavy. Unavoidable. Someone didn't just lie. A beat. They needed her gone.